He was speaking truth. He was speaking divine truth. And he was speaking to you, and you, and you. And yeah, thank you, God, he was speaking to me too. That ancient world was in great flux. Traditions were being trampled. As the Roman Empire expanded, the cultures that they had conquered, they weren't turning into good little Romans. It wasn't working that way. Those conquered cultures were changing the Romans. And at the same time, that Romanization was not going as well as they had hoped. There was something else going on. Hellenization, originating in Greece. The process of the introduction of universal education, it was beginning then. Universal education. And so what was happening? People were not acting the way they were supposed to. People were not following the traditions that were proper. And they weren't marrying the proper people. They weren't marrying the proper people. Sound familiar? You think much has changed? It has, but how much? We are still very young. We are very, very, very young. Let that bring hope to your faith. When change begins to accelerate, out of fear, many people will look to the next spiritual book, the next spiritual teacher, the next president, the next social movement, the next Messiah to save them. That's what many people do out of fear. But the Christ, which is the true animating force in you and me, is shouting to us this: you-hoo! You have been looking for, searching for, praying for. It's you. And inside you may say, no, not me. It's not me. And the Christ to which Yusuf ben Joseph gave voice says, yes, you. These things I have done, you shall do, and better, and better. The story of Jesus' birth is your story. It is the story of unlimited possibility. It was an immaculate birth. Just as yours was an immaculate birth. Huh? Immaculacy means unlimited potential and possibility. And each one of us has several or more intersections in our life where we stand at this crossroads, where we have choices to make. And we get to choose which direction we want to move in. We have possibilities. And they are limited only by our vision and our hope and our faith. Nothing more. Think about some of those times in your life. Those moments where you got to choose this direction or that direction. You think those choices have all passed you? I tell you they have not. I don't care your age. You are free at any time to give birth to any new idea, pursue any desire, and to change any self-concept you have. You can change your self-concept any time you choose. I have said before, you are not, others have said it too, you are not who you think you are. And if you think you are, I'm telling you. As Jesus' story continues, there is a bright star high above shining into the stable. And shepherds come, those of simpler instinct. Don't put a negative judgment on simpler instinct. There's a lot to be said for simple instinct. They represent one aspect of the human condition. So the shepherds come. And the wise men come. You think there might have been a wise woman or two? Those who have deep insights. Deep insight. And they come to worship this pure divine child, this God seed. But it is not in a palace, and it is not in a temple. It's not in a mansion or even a condominium. It's in a stable. And all of creation is represented in this stable. You have cows and sheep grazing on grass. You have I'm sure they could see the stars through slits in the stable roof. It's an amazing scene, and it brings together, if you look at it deeply, you see within that nativity scene the profane, the sacred, the simple, the complex, man and beast, and the divine. You see your divinity if you look. And you don't even have to look that closely. Just look with an open heart. The wise ones surrounding the manger recognized in the vast potential of the divine child a wisdom greater than their own, and so they brought gifts. The kind of gifts you would give to a priest king. Frankincense and myrrh and gold. Upon the advent of your birth, there were those who came with gifts. There were those who came in awe of you and said, how precious, how beautiful. What hands, what feet, what eyes. What promise. Jesus' birth was the fulfillment of a promise. Your birth was the fulfillment of a promise. What promise, you might be asking? That of greater love. That of the greater and greater expression of love. These things I have done, you shall do. And better. You see, there is only one story. There is only one story. And you are living it. Jesus' story and yours. They are the same. In her book, God's Seed, The Journey of the Christ, Jean Houston writes this, shares this about her secretary who was with child. She writes, I had the wonderful experience of guiding my secretary in the last weeks of her pregnancy. Using trance and guided imagery, I told her that the initial contractions of her delivery would be felt as contractions. But then the release would be ecstatic and joyful. And she would know that she was giving birth to the Holy Child. I told her that she would experience the birth as pure pleasure and would be saying throughout the labor, "Welcome, I love you. Welcome, I love you." Sending abundant love to her emerging Holy Child. Shortly after having her baby, she called me up and said, "I just gave birth to this little boy." And I could not believe that there was so much ecstasy in the world. I felt no pain. It was pure pleasure, for I gave birth to holiness.